and you're looking out the windows that overlook the start of this patio. And you get to the first fence line, and the 5 people are running on just the other side of that fence line, south, which is to the right. Did you all go do your search that direction?
The second time you say it, first time?
Just any time.
First time when around that direction, east of the property.
This is east. Did you ever go south and follow the direction of where the 5 possible subjects ran across the window from the view of the Kellys?
We started walking south once we passed the arroyo and everything.
Is that to your car?
Well, the car was behind the property, so that's not towards the car.
How far south from the driveway or the little driveway did you go?
Once we hit the 2-track road after the arroyo, that's when we walked back to the residence.
Yes, is that where their fence line allows you to come through?
The first, there's a gated.
Yes. So you didn't go anywhere in any direction to verify whether someone was still around this location, correct?
Correct.
Were you able to observe the 2 dogs? You pay any attention to them?
Didn't pay attention to the canines.
Okay. Canines can be very smart and tell you what's out somewhere. Did you even look to see if they were alerting to anything, anywhere?
No, there's not. No, they're right next to Mr. Kelly.
These are pretty inquisitive canines. Are you sure?
I'm sure they're right next to Mr. Kelly.
Sorry to talk over you, didn't mean to do that. They didn't follow you guys out there once they came back to the house with Mr. Kelly? They didn't come out there to see where you were?
That I recall, no. They were right next to Mr. Kelly.
But you saw the wash. You saw how it sloped down and then dropped at that point and into a sandy bank of some sort, correct?
Correct, the beginning, the picture does not make it justice as a wash. I'm trying to explain.
I understand that, I agree, because it's overhead, right?
Correct.
Right, but when you're looking at it on the ground, it gives a different feeling. The whole area does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay? And so, so your cursory search really wasn't much of a search, was it?
It was a search until we located Mr. Kelly.
Well, when Mr. Kelly was brought up, you guys were, spread out in the field, and so you just called it off once you saw him?
That time, when I went back for my vehicle and drove down the 2-track and located Mr. Kelly walking up the 2-track with his canines and the Border Patrol agents, that's when I spoke with them.
You want to explain what a 2-track is in case you get a note later and we'll solve that?
2-track is the road that was next to the property. It was the first outline at the end of the map. If we have the map, I can show you where the 2-track is. It's just a road that anybody can make with either tractor, vehicles, ATVs, UTVs.
So the fact that Mr. Kelly has an ATV driving around, he would, if he keeps going over the same location, it would cause this 2-track?
Correct.
Okay. So it's packed down ground that looks like a path, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. It's not really a roadway per se, right?
Correct.
It's just more for ranch equipment could use it maybe, correct?
Correct.
Walking path maybe?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to get that clarity. Now, did you find something strange about a flashlight wrapped around a gun?
Yes, for me it was.
Why is that?
Because it was strange that it was being held with black duct tape.
Okay, it costs money to get lights, flashlights to some of the weapons. I mean, there are some things that are out there, but it costs money, right?
That's correct.
So you could buy that, in other words, if you go in a gun store, depending on the gun, but you might be able to find something that you could attach to your weapon, whether a handgun or rifle, and it would provide light ahead of you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so this is just a makeshift of that, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so the fact that if he had one that he bought, would that be less strange?
Not that strange, but it was something I would all notice. They had a light next to it.
He lives on a ranch of over 100 acres big. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And there's things that he needs to check out at night, and there is no lighting in the evening. Were you out there in the evening?
Not in the evening.
Okay. Would it surprise you there's no street lights?
I wouldn't. It's a ranch.
It's a ranch.
Acres.
Exactly. Thank you, sir. And so to have a flashlight, if you had to hold a weapon, wouldn't it be easier just to wrap it around the stock in order to look around?
Yes, you can, but we know a barrel creates heat once you shoot a weapon, so it will melt the glue on the tape.
Well, you might know that, but apparently it didn't melt it because it was on when you saw it, right?
Correct?
And by the look of the tape, I don't know, it could be very old. Approach the evidence. Just bring out the tape and the flashlight out of there and bring it to the witness. So this is not your typical flashlight either, is it?
No.
Do you need anything?
No.
Needs to be sealed in the back. And what kind of light do you think it might be? Can it be a weapons light?
No, it could be any light you could buy at hardware store probably, or online.
But it's small, like one would be found on a weapon, right?
That's correct.
Look at the tape. Does it look brand new?
Not really.
You know what I mean? Just walk by the jurors with this thing. Actually, pretty smart, wouldn't you agree?
What was that?
Could be pretty smart that he did that to his rifle.
It would be anybody's opinion.
Well, this is winter, right?
That's correct.
January 30th. And the sun goes down quicker in the winter, doesn't it?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And you don't know what his responsibilities of livestock, if he needs something in his barn. You have no idea, right?
I do not.
Okay. So this provides a means of lighting, right?
For Mr. Kelly, yes.
Yeah, sure. So there was one single shot that he reported before he went to leave his living room or leave his house to go outside. Is that right?
That's correct.
And are you aware there was one single shot found on this body?
Now I am.
Okay. And so he's in the home hearing a shot based on his testimony, his 911 call, his contact with Border Patrol. And now later we learn at a different moment of time, not on your watch yet, but we learn that there is a body out there that has a single shot also, correct?
That's correct.
Now, he told you when he saw these people that he was at the kitchen island, right?
Yes, he was.
And you testified that earlier.
Yes, it is.
So if I'm standing at my kitchen island making my lunch, did it tell you he was making his lunch?
He didn't tell me what he was doing exactly.
Okay. And did you notice that he could look through the living room and out his big picture windows? And he would look onto the photo, his pergola, his patio, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you see those big picture windows?
Saw that big picture window once I went back the second day.
Okay. So you're aware of what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay. And he claims he sees someone goes across there with these, did he describe backpacks?
Correct. He described 5 subjects wearing backpacks and camouflage running south.
Okay. And then alerted to the gunshot, which you don't know, there was a phone call made and then he went out. But, let me get to your report here just a second. Now, when he saw these subjects, he grabbed his rifle, right?
Yes, correct.
And did you know, or did you learn that he had come in the house from the morning being outside? That he placed his rifle by the door?
I did not learn that.
Okay. Had that happened, would that be respectful to his wife, to not carry it in throughout the house?
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that, right? Okay. So if he leaves, the rifle will be right by the door. That's kind of convenient, isn't it?
Okay.
Yes. So then you learned, after he said he knew where the gun was, you paraphrased what you heard. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but you testified to what you heard, that he keeps this gun there, his baby or whatever
Correct.
you
His
referenced.
baby's always by the door.
That he exited at that point, okay?
Yes.
We've all heard he's made a phone call by now, okay? You don't know that, right?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. And you observed the subjects were possibly carrying rifles.
Right.
Now, he heard a shot, right?
Correct.
And you got 5 people running by. It's a little hard to see exactly what's going on, and I imagine his adrenaline is up. Would that be reasonable?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. Now, when you asked him if they shot at him, he was being very honest, right?
Yes, he was.
He doesn't know who actually shot because he was coming out the door. He was still in his house.
Correct.
Okay. But it was close enough to alarm him. Would you agree?
Agree?
It was close enough to alarm his horse. Would you agree?
Yes.
And it was close enough to alarm, and get his wife upset too, right?
Yes.
So he didn't know which direction they were shooting, but it could have been at his horse. Could have been at each other. He didn't know, right?
Correct, he did not know.
Okay. So he's not sitting here lying to you or anything, right?
Vouching of the witness of the veracity of another witness is completely improper.
Do you have any reason to believe he was not being truthful?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay. Now, we also told you, because now when he's talking to you, the event is over, right?
Correct.
He's not on the phone reporting what he's seeing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So he's already been out towards his barn or wherever the deputy or the border patrol found him, correct?
Correct.
And he's come back in. So he knows what he saw at that point in time, what event took place, correct?
Correct.
And he mentions possible members of another cartel. And possibly, with that in mind, maybe they were shooting at each other, right?
Correct.
Now, he didn't know that for a fact, did he?
Nope.
He was sort of speculating from his observation, right?
Correct.
That means he had to see, possibly, with that in mind, that there was a chance he saw another group.
Your Honor, objection calls for speculation.
Did you ask him why he would know that?
No, I did not ask him.
Isn't it the job, and I know you were new, but isn't it the job of a investigating team, including patrol, to ask questions?
Yes.
Okay. So then he said he began to try to follow the subjects along with his two dogs. He didn't say he chased them, did he?
Nope.
No. Actually, the direction he went into is where his barn was. Did you learn that later?
Didn't ask him where he had stopped or made it to. We just found him on the 2-track in the road.
Right. Well, so you don't know that he was returning when Border Patrol
Objection,
intercepted
Your Honor.
him. Did you know that he was returning from his barn when Border Patrol intercepted him? Did you know that?
No.
Did you ever learn that?
No.
So, you don't know that he was chasing someone or just checking on his property, right? You don't really know, do you?
Then I just...
Now, do you know that my client, Alan Kelly, is a left-handed person?
I do not know that.
Okay, and how you hold a gun would probably be, especially if you know anything about a gun, you're going to take your strong arm, whichever it is, right or left, and keep it closer to where the trigger would be, correct?
Correct.
So if I'm going to pick up this rifle and hold it, and I am right-handed, I would grab the stock with my right hand and the barrel with my left, right?
Correct.
Because I could easily move to the trigger if something happened.
Correct.
It would be the opposite if you were left-handed, correct?
It could be, depending on the
Okay.
person.
Well, if you know anything about guns, and say you know how to shoot a gun, you're going to be wise about it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, obviously, the Border Patrol did not feel in any threat with him carrying his weapon, right?
Correct.
Because no one told him to disarm at this time, did they?
Nope.
Okay? So, everyone treated him as a victim like he should have been treated all along, correct?
Your Honor, objection. Argumentative.
Did everyone, let me rephrase it, see if the court's okay with this. Did everyone treat him as a potential victim rather than a suspect at this point in time?
At this point in time, I treated him as a reporting party,
Okay? Which could be a victim, right?
depending on the outcome of the investigation.
It was his property, correct?
Correct.
It was him that heard shots on his own property, correct?
Correct.
It's him that saw 5 people with weapons and backpacks, possibly illegal smugglers, going across his property. That makes him a victim too, doesn't it?
Correct, as you stated, possibly carrying.
Thank you. And the fact that, just going with the potential that the two parties, Mrs. Kelly and Mr. Kelly, reported what they did. If one shot was heard while he was still in the house, who shot it? Do you know?
I do not know.
How long were you out there searching the property?
Do not recall.
Give me, did it feel like 5 minutes? Feel like an hour?
An estimate could be at least minimum of 30 minutes.
That seems, 30 minutes seems a little thorough, don't you think?
Seems until we located Mr. Kelly.
Well, okay. How about pine trees? Do you see any pine trees out there?
Not that I recall, usually it's mesquite down here.
Okay. And you paid attention, you paid attention to the weapon that Mr. Kelly had and later helped to identify what it looked like, huh?
Yes, correct.
You were the brand new recruit that was the only one that knew what it looked like.
Yes, I did.
Well, and that's good. You are being alert, right?
Yes.
Trying to be a good recruit. And you have no idea why the gun was hanging where it was. You have no information about that, right?
On the 31st that it was located in
Yes.
the house? No, I do not.
You don't know if someone told them to put it there, right?
No.
You have no idea.
I have no idea.
Did you look at all for anything that could look like tracks?
Try to locate down there tracks was seen of either horses, people walking around, could have been anybody,
There were a lot, weren't
or
there?
a lot. Correct.
So you don't know if they were fresh or old,
Correct.
but it clearly, and are you speaking of the Arroyo or on the property or both?
General, both of the area.
Okay? Pass the witness.
All right, I think this will be time to take a mid-afternoon recess. Start at 1:30, it's now 2:40. Take a 30-minute recess, we'll come back about 10 after 3.
Right, good morning.
witness is retaking the stand, and all the jurors are here, all counsel and the defendant are here. And when the witness is ready, when the state is ready, you can begin your redirect examination.
Thank you, Honor. Deputy Monreal, I want to start first with the map that we talked about earlier. If we could give me the screen, please. For everyone. I'm going to display for you again what's previously been admitted as State's Exhibit 114. Do you see that in front of you?
Yes.
We were talking earlier about a two-track. Do you see that two-track we were discussing here in this map?
Yes.
Could you point to it for the jury?
That's where the two-track begins.
Okay. And where does it go? Where all does it go?
Goes all the way down the road.
And I see some grass in the middle of the road on the lower part of that. Is that why they call it a two-track? Because some grass sometimes grows in the middle?
Correct.
Okay. And was this the type of road that you were able to drive your own patrol car on?
Yes, correct.
So it's not just like a dirt path or anything, it's actually a road?
Be considered a road.
I mean, it's good
Yes.
enough for a car to drive on?
Yes.
Now, I just want to clear up. I want to start back from the beginning. What did you initially know about the call when you got there?
What I initially knew was shots fired in the area.
What's your priority when you get a report of shots fired?
Just make sure everybody's safe.
Would that have included the reporting party?
Yes, correct.
So then what would your priority have been when you got to the location?
It would be make contact with our reporting party.
And is that what you attempted to do in this case?
That's what I attempted to do once we had heard that he had left south.
So you get there, you get the report that he's headed south, and you're there are 4 of you and 2 border patrol, is that right?
Correct.
And y'all split up.
Yes.
And if I understand correctly, border patrol went directly south.
You're
is
not
that-
objecting to leading?
It's foundational, it's overruled.
So as I understand it, 2 border patrol officers went direct south, is that right?
That's what they could have done. Did not see what direction they went.
If you don't know, I'm not asking you to tell me that. So you don't know where the border patrol went, is that right?
Correct.
But you're with your sergeant, your training officer, and another deputy.
Yes, correct.
And as I understand it, y'all head east with the plan to head south.
Yes,
I'm
correct.
object again to leading. You could ask open-ended questions in what direction?
I'm just trying to get to where we were, Judge, so I can ask the
Well,
question,
the problem
redirect
was
questions.
what the question before where I overruled the objection, I thought it was a foundational question. He said he didn't know, so let's ask open-ended questions, the objection's sustained.
Did you testify earlier that you all headed east so that you could try to find a way south?
Yes, correct.
All right. And when you headed east, what did you run into?
I headed east, we ran into the gate, the barbed wire fence.
And so when you ran into the barbed wire fence, which direction are you trying to still head?
At that point, east.
But what's your eventual goal?
Eventual goal is south.
All right. So you're heading east, you run into a fence, and then you eventually get over the fence. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And then you head east some more and go under a fence. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
At this point, did you have any information from Mr. Kelly about where he saw people running or where he heard a shot or anything of that nature?
No, negative, I did not have any information.
And so after you headed under that second fence, what direction did you go?
Also the east-south, starting going south.
And you said you headed into the area where you could see the arroyo and dirt, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Do you see on the map, Exhibit 114, the arroyo that you were talking about, that you could actually see the dirt in?
Yes,
And you drew a diagram earlier about which direction you headed, is that right?
yes, correct.
And you said you headed straight east from the ladder structure by the pump house, is that right?
Yes, correct.
And then from there you headed south.
Yes,
And so when you headed south, is that when you went into the arroyo?
yes.
And then after you headed into the arroyo, where did you go from there?
From the arroyo, we jumped to the road that I marked.
And when you got to the road, which direction did you go?
We followed the road back towards the residence.
Okay, and that's when you talked to Mrs. Kelly?
Yes, correct.
So at this point, did you know anything about what had happened out there?
No, at that point, I did not know what was going on.
And if I remember your testimony correctly with the defense, you indicated that the grass was up to your knees or so, is that right?
Correct, some dry grass.
Now I'm showing you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 35, image number 0038. Now I'm showing you a photograph of the body that was located that day. Even if you had been looking for the body at this point, do you think if you'd walked past it, you'd have been able to see this body as you were walking out there?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Not at this point, it would have been difficult.
How many acres are we talking?
I remember recalling 10 acres, they had stated earlier.
So you thought you were looking at 10 acres, is that right?
Correct.
And so finding this body and 2 feet of grass, do you think that what you were doing when you referred to it as a cursory search would have located this?
No.
If you had had additional information that Mr. Kelly had discharged his weapon in a specific direction, do you think you would have conducted a different search?
Yes, it would have made us conduct a different search.
When you met up with Mr. Kelly and you had your conversation with him, were you in the house or were you somewhere else?
I was somewhere else.
Where were you?
It was on the road. It didn't show really in the picture where the road turned the curve.
So this picture doesn't show where you saw him?
No, correct.
It was where there's like an elbow in the...
More south, so the road comes back
Okay.
near a farm or type of barn location.
So further south and east.
Yes.
And when you had that conversation with Mr. Kelly and he was giving you his statement about what happened, at any point did he tell you he discharged his weapon?
No, not at any point did he tell me.
And when you told us earlier which door you thought he went out, did he show you which door he went out?
No, he never showed me or
So
mentioned which door.
when you told us earlier which door it was, were you guessing?
It was more of an assumption.
Now, when Mr. Kelly talked to you about the AK-47, did he tell you that he put it by the door to be polite to his wife?
No, he never mentioned that.
What specifically did he say about the AK?
It was just a comment of this baby's always by the door.
And I just want to make sure that we have a good picture of this. So when you crossed that fence line, were you able to look to your right and see backwards towards the house?
Yes, it's, you can see the house.
Okay, so I'm gonna play that video one more time, which is admitted as State's Exhibit 36. So when Miss Lothorpe was asking you if you'd never looked at the other side of the smoker, would you have been able to see that once you crossed the fence line and looked back?
Yes, partially.
And off in the distance, can you see the road that we were just talking about in this map, in this
Yes, I can.
drone footage? Can you also sort of see the dirt from the arroyo off in the distance? And if you can't, that's okay, I think it.
Partially, I was able to see at the end.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between field training versus a ride-along. Is there something called a ride-along?
There's something called a ride-along. Ride-along is anybody, public from the community, member, other employees such as booking clerks, detention officers. They can request to go on a ride-along with a deputy. They'll just have to sign a waiver, consenting, and they'll go with any deputy they would like with.
So they can have an evening shift riding along with the deputy to
Correct.
see what y'all do.
Yes, correct.
You weren't doing a ride-along, correct?
Not correct, I was not doing a ride-along.
You were actually doing your field training.
I was doing a field training.
Now, when you're on your field training, in your phase 3, you're with a deputy, is that right?
Yes, I'm with the deputy.
But you've already moved through 2 of your phases, so you're not just watching, correct?
Yes, correct.
What is phase 3?
Phase 3 is, that time was with Deputy Carrera, Section 139. It's basically, she told me, all right, you're gonna take control more of the calls, you'll try to do as much as you can. If you get stuck, I'm there to help you. If you do something you're not supposed to, I will help you.
So basically, you're doing the work and she's watching over your shoulder to make sure you don't mess anything up.
Correct.
And she's there as a resource.
Yes, correct.
So that's the phase you were in this case.
Yes.
Did anyone tell you how to write your report in this case?
Not what's right in it, but Deputy Carrera would review it once I wrote my report.
So she made sure it was accurate, that you hadn't made any errors.
Yes, correct.
Deleting and repeating of the answers is good.
So my question to you is, about that report, did anyone tell you to use the phrase cursory search in your report?
No,
That was how you described the search that you did. Was that how you described the search that you did when you went to look for Mr. Kelly?
yes, correct.
And when you found Mr. Kelly, what did he tell you about these subjects that he thought he had seen, where he thought they were at that point?
At that point, once I met up with Mr. Kelly, he did state they probably made it over the border back to Mexico.
So according to Mr. Kelly, then he thought they were gone already? Was there anything for you to look for at that point?
At that point, there wasn't.
Can I have just a second, Aaron? Thank you.
questions for this witness from members of the jury? We have at least one. Question from one of the jurors. Someone hold the weapon in question in a safe position on either the left or right side. I think it's the question is it safe to hold the weapon on one side or the other side? Is that right, Jerry?
Usually, the way we deal with it, what it looks like.
Oh, a demonstration.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You just want to see what it looks like?
Yeah. Let's take it on the right and on the left.
Okay, so we just volunteered to give a demonstration.
Sure.
How to hold the weapon, how the weapon will be held on the right side.
Okay.
That's right.
I'll be demonstrating the way, when I located Mr. Kelly, the way he was holding the weapon. This was the way Mr. Kelly was holding the weapon when I approached him, when he was walking up the track road with the two border patrol agents. Does have a sling. I know you're trying to see why is it a big importance.
Well, there's no questions, man. So just, the lawyers may have some more questions after this, but for right now, just demonstrate what it would look like on the other side.
On the side, left side? See, left side.
All right. Now, lawyer, hold on a second. Does that suffice?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so let's put that away, and then I'm gonna allow the lawyers to have some follow-up questions. And I'll give the questions. Questions to the clerk. Let's start with the statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is there a reason why you noted how he was carrying the weapon?
Just the reason why safety, putting the muscle backwards.
That makes it safe, is that what you're saying?
It's safe, it's not, I don't feel he was feeling any immediate threat to have it patrol or ready, just downwards.
Would it matter, safety-wise, right versus left?
No, it wouldn't have mattered.
Okay. But you if I understood you correctly, you documented that it was on the right. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
That's all I have.
Would you, sir, would you agree if a person's left-handed, they would hold things differently?
They could hound, yes, correct.
Someone that knows how to handle a gun would hold it so the trigger is closest to the hand that would be shooting, correct? Pulling the trigger.
Correct.
Okay, so could I also ask this witness, just for demonstrative purposes, if he could do the same thing with the cradling as we heard earlier testimony before we get rid of the gun? Would that be all right with the court? Left and right?
I don't object, Judge, but I'm not sure the witness will know what we mean by that, but we could certainly have him try.
All right, well, just ask some foundational questions to see what he's doing for you.
Well, you have him almost in a military approach, like he's holding it over his shoulder. Is it possible that he was cradling it on one side or the other with his arms?
No, I do recall that the muzzle was pointing backwards from him,
Up over the shoulder?
over the shoulder.
Would you agree that if you cradled it, do you know what I mean by cradled it?
Correct? Yes.
Then often referred to as a hunting position. How's that? Does that help at all?
Yes.
Okay. That, again, the muzzle would be pointed in different directions depending if they're right or left-handed. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Would you have personal knowledge of what I mean that you could demonstrate it for the jurors?
Yes.
All right, just said that. So you wanted to demonstrate specifically what? Cradling on both sides?
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure I understood.
And while he's in that position, Your Honor, may I do a follow-up question with it? Which position would allow him, if he's right-handed, which position would be more likely to allow him to get to the trigger quicker?
Right-handed. The weapon being his right hand. It would be quicker having it this way. It really matters this time.
Well, if he used his left hand from that position, he would have to shift the gun in order to get his right hand on the trigger, correct?
So it's left hand trigger?
If he was in the position you're showing, go ahead and let the, just a little bit, just so the jurors can see too. If you were to go from there and to get into a ready position with the rifle, what kind of shifting would it take if you're right-handed?
It wouldn't take that much since he's already here. You just grab with the left and his arm.
You'd have to flip it.
Not that much. Just
I'm asking to get his hand on the trigger without putting your hand on the trigger like you know how you're trained.
put the grip, the trigger to the.
Right. But he's right-handed and your right hand would get to the trigger, right, in order to use the gun?
At this point, it would be easier for my left hand to go to the handle and trigger.
Okay.
My right hand.
And everyone's different, but then if you cradle it the other way,
So it does it. Try to-
and to get the left hand to the trigger, again, it takes a little more manipulating, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't know if that helped or not, but did that answer your question? Okay, any other questions? All right, then, the witness excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir, you are excused. Let's get on this real quickly before you call your next witness. State can call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Deputy Castañeda.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Thank you, sir. If you come over here to the witness stand, have a seat. Thank you. Ms. Hunley, looks like you're going to do the examination, so
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you please tell the jury your full name and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Deputy Cristobal Castañeda, Batch 144 with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office. Last name is spelled Castañeda.
And can I have the screen, please, already? And you speak really quick, so I'm just going to remind you before we get started, if you could speak slowly so the court reporter can take down what you're saying. And Deputy, can you tell the jury a little bit about your background? Are you currently employed with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, correct.
And can you tell the jury what your current position is, how long you've held it, and your background?
I am an employed deputy with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office. I have been employed for 6 years and 3 months. My employment began in January of 2018 till present.
Did you go to an academy to become a certified deputy?
Yes, I attended Selecti in Tucson, Arizona.
And have you had other training since then?
Other trainings, after attending the academy, I graduated, and then I had the 3 months of field training officer, and then I went on to, for 3 months, and then I went on to patrol.
And is that what you've done since you became a deputy patrol?
Correct.
And were you on patrol, on duty, on January 30th of 2023?
Correct.
On that date, were you called to an incident at 100 Willow Cross Circle?
100 Willow Cross Circle. Yes, correct.
And when you got to that call, what was the first thing you observed when you arrived?
When I arrived at the call, I met with the other deputies who were already on scene. It was Deputy Monreal, Batch 191, Deputy Cabrera, Batch 139, and Sergeant Garcia, Batch 130.
Was there anyone else, law enforcement-wise, at the location when you arrived?
Yes.
Who was there?
It was 2 Border Patrol agents.
And what did you do when you first got there?
I met with them and kind of briefed on what the situation was with them.
What did they tell you?
They advised me that the homeowner had left the area in reference to what the call had been about.
Did they tell you which direction?
Yes.
What direction did they tell you?
Southwest.
Once you had that information, what did you do?
We began to conduct a cursory search of the area towards the area that was pointed out to us, which was southwest of the residence.
And when you say a cursory search, could you tell the jury what you mean by that and what you were looking for?
At the time, we were looking for the homeowner. He was identified as Mr. George Kelly, as well as attempting to find if we could see any of the subjects that were mentioned during the initial call.
Which direction did you go? Did you go to the home?
To the back of the home.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 114. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes.
If I zoom it in, would that be more helpful?
Yes.
You described going to the back of the home. Which area on this map did you mean when you said you went to the back of the home?
It's
And if
a
you-
little hard to
If
tell.
you have a stylus in front of you, like a little pen,
Yes. This,
and if you touch the upper left-hand corner, it'll let you draw. Just touch on the screen, upper left-hand corner. Now you should be able to draw. Can you draw? Just draw an X in the location where you are, the side of the house you all went to.
could you zoom it in a little bit more, if it's possible?
Actually can't zoom it in further. Do you recall walking in next to did you see a garage at all when you got there?
I don't recall.
Do you remember seeing an area where there was a fenced area and a front door?
Yes.
Like just a walled-in front area with a front door?
I remember the fenced area.
Okay. When you say fenced area, what do you mean by fenced area?
It was a wire fence. It was like, there was a, next to the house, and that's where the horse was located.
Inside the fence?
And inside that fence area.
Okay, so there was like a barbed wire fenced area next to the home.
Correct.
Is that the side of the residence you were on?
Yes.
Okay, and so I have some drone footage of that. Would that help orient you?
Yes.
I'm gonna turn the screen off for a minute. If you would, please. I didn't have that queued up on there. I'm going to show you now what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 36, and you let us know if you recognize this.
Yes.
Is that a fence line?
Yes.
Is this the area you were talking about that the horse was located?
Correct.
And do you see a pergola or a gazebo that was in this area? I'll go back in a minute when it finishes. Does that give you an idea of the location?
Yes.
Let me let you see it from the other direction and see if that's helpful as well. Is that helpful to look at it from that direction?
Yes.
And are you able to tell us? Back up a little bit. Are you able to tell us from the, does that help you figure out where you were on the map?
Yes.
Okay, and let me zoom you back in on the map. Now, looking at at that map, can you tell us which side of the house you were on?
Maybe to click on the property.
Yes, the other one. So I see you put a green arrow on the screen. Is that the side of the house you were on?
That looks like the area from the gazebo.
Okay, so the gazebo, that's the side of the house you were on?
When we began our search.
Okay. And then what did y'all do? What were y'all looking for?
We were looking for subjects actively running as well as for Mr. Kelly.
And when you got to this side of the residence, what did y'all do?
Once we went to the side of the residence, we noticed there was that wire fence, and we crossed that wire fence through a ladder. It was in between that fence. And then started walking that area, and then we hit a second fence, and then went underneath that fence and kept on searching.
And I know that it's kind of small, but are you able to tell us what that ladder structure was near? Was it near another structure?
Yes.
What was it near?
I'm not sure if it was a shed or a brick. It was a small building.
Okay, can you see that on the map that we're looking at now?
I can't tell from the picture. I'm not sure.
Is there a small square building to the northeast of the residence?
Yes.
Is that the building? Are you able to tell?
It looks a little greenish. That would be the building.
Okay, and so when you crossed over the ladder structure, you said you crossed the ladder structure into the fence, and then where did you go from there?
We started making our way southwest.
Did you cross another fence before you started going south-southwest, or did you go directly south-southwest?
I don't recall.
Okay, and when you say south-southwest, which way would be west on this?
Towards that area.
Okay, is that the direction you traveled?
Southwest.
Okay, so can you maybe draw for us which direction you went if you crossed the fence and then crossed another fence line?
Yes.
So that's the direction you think you traveled?
Yes, southwest.
Did you, and you crossed over up above by where the little structure is?
We passed that structure and then started heading south.
Okay, and so I think maybe I'm not understanding you. To the north of the house, do you see a little square?
Yes.
Is that the area where the ladder was? Can you circle it?
This one.
Yeah, is that where the ladder was?
That was close where the ladder was.
Okay, can you circle that? And you said you crossed over the fence there, and then you crossed the second fence. Do you know where you crossed the second fence?
I'm not able to see it on the picture.
Okay,
It's not very clear.
so you're not sure?
No.
Do you know if you crossed, do you see a dirt road to the east of that? Do you know
Yes.
if you crossed that dirt road?
I'm not sure.
Okay, and so when you crossed over into the fence line, and at some point you crossed another fence line, you think you headed south, straight south through the area, or did you cross over the fence before you headed south?
I don't recall if we started or if I started heading south or west before or after the fence.
Okay, that's fair. And then what do you remember seeing next after you headed southwest? What's the next thing you remember searching?
Again, we were searching for Mr. Kelly and those subjects that were mentioned during the call. And I kept walking, attempting to locate either Mr. Kelly or the subjects. And at some point, I did made it all the way to a third fence line.
Okay, and which direction was that fence line?
I'm not able to see it here on the picture.
Can you just point for us which direction?
I'm not sure.
You don't know which direction you went? So if north is the top of the screen, and south is the bottom of the screen, and east is the right side, and west is the left side, do you know which direction you went after you got to the bottom of where your line is?
I would have been going to this area, south,
Okay, so
southwest.
heading southwest.
Correct.
And did you head further to the left of the screen? Did you head further to the bottom of the screen? Or which direction were you going? That you hit another fence line?
South.
South.
Correct.
Did you hit a wash?
I crossed through a wash.
Okay, so you crossed through the wash. Let me make this screen a little bigger again. So I see a wash down further south. Is that the direction you headed? Did that wash go further over?
Here, I'm not sure if you're referring to this one right here.
Okay, so do you see like a dirt area to the south part and to the right side of the screen towards the bottom? We're going to clear the screen for you first.
Apologize, yes.
Okay, that's all right. And so down below, do you see on the right half of the screen, about 2/3 of the way down, do you see a squiggly line of what looks like dirt colors?
This right here?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that appear to be a wash or an arroyo?
Yes.
Do you recall a wash or an arroyo in that location?
Yes.
And did that wash or arroyo continue on south?
Correct.
And is that the wash you crossed through?
Yes.
And after you crossed through the wash, did you see any buildings of any kind?
On my way back, I did see a barn and another brick building or a shed.
So you crossed all the way past the barn,
Correct.
even further west than that. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And then after you got to there, what did you do?
I kept searching, and then I heard that Mr. Kelly had been located, so I started making my way back
And how did you hear that?
over the radio.
And when you started making your way back, what did you observe?
I noticed the barn and the small building
Did
that
you,
was close to it.
when you saw those things, were you walking along the wash or were you walking along a roadway?
Walking up from the wash and then met a dirt road.
When you got there, what did you do?
I met with Deputy Monreal and Deputy Cabrera.
And after you met with them, what did you do next?
Mr. Kelly was there at that road. He was offered a ride back to the residence. He advised us that he would walk back with his canines, and then Deputy Monreal and Deputy Cabrera gave me a ride to the residence.
All that area that you searched, did you see anyone?
No,
Did you see anything at all?
no,
Any kind of sign of anything having occurred?
no.
When you got back to the residence, what's the first thing you did?
Getting back to the residence, I met with a female, Miss Wanda Kelly, and I started talking to her.
You got a statement from Mrs. Kelly?
Correct.
And after you got a statement from Mrs. Kelly, what's the next thing that you did?
While I was talking to her, Mr. Kelly arrived at the residence, and then I went on to get a statement from him.
And when you saw Mr. Kelly, did you make any observations of him?
Yes.
What did you observe when you saw Mr. Kelly?
As I was talking to Ms. Wanda, Mr. Kelly arrived. I turned around and I saw Mr. Kelly enter the residence holding a rifle in his hands.
Did you notice if he had that rifle when you saw him out on the roadway?
Yes.
So is it the same rifle he had on the roadway?
Yes.
And when you saw him with the rifle, what did you see him do?
He then walked inside and then went towards the kitchen area.
And what did he do when he went to the kitchen area? Did you see him do anything?
No, I turned back around to keep talking to Ms. Wanda.
All right. And did you see Mr. Kelly again at some point?
Yes.
Did you make any observations about him then?
Yes.
What did you observe?
He walked back out of the area he had went into without his rifle.
So he came back and did not have the rifle, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Now, you said you talked to Mr. Kelly. Where did you have this conversation? Do you recall?
Yes.
Where was it?
Inside the residence, by the entrance.
By which entrance?
By would have been the west entrance.
Would that be the front door, the back door?
The front door.
Front door, okay.
Yes.
So when you're talking to Mr. Kelly, where does he tell you he was when these events started?
He told me he was standing by the kitchen.
And did he tell you that he observed something?
Correct.
Where did he say he observed it through?
Living room window.
And what did he say he observed through the living room window?
He advised me he observed approximately 5 subjects running southwest.
Does the screen accurately reflect what you just told me his statement was?
Yes.
So what's the next thing that he told you happened?
He advised me that he then walked towards the east entrance.
And is that not the front door? That's a different door than the front door?
Correct.
Okay, so he's told you you went to the east entrance. And when you looked at the map, what would be near to that east entrance that you could tell us about that you saw on the map?
The patio and the porch.
Would we call that a gazebo?
Correct.
So on the side where the gazebo is, he told you he goes to that door.
Correct.
And when he went to the door, what did he say he did?
He said that he grabbed the rifle that he keeps by that door.
And where did he say he went from there?
He went outside the residence.
And when he went outside the residence, what did he tell you he observed?
He observed approximately 5 subjects.
And what did he tell you he observed of them?
That they were carrying backpacks and possibly carrying rifles.
And does that accurately reflect what he told you?
Yes.
And what did he tell you happened once he got outside?
I don't recall.
Did he tell you that he heard something?
Yes.
What did he tell you he heard?
He told me that he heard a single shot.
And did he tell you what kind of weapon he believed the shot was from?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that the shot came from an AK-47.
And did he tell you anything about his knowledge of the sound of an AK-47?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that he was very familiar with the sounds that an AK-47 and an AR-15 make when being shot.
And what did he say about the sound?
That the sound definitely came from an AK-47.
And does that accurately reflect what he told you?
Correct.
Did he make any comments to you about what he thought had happened?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
Mr. Kelly told me that he believed that the subjects he observed had encountered other members of the cartel.
And what did he think had happened between the cartel members?
He told me he believed that that they got into an altercation and the subjects scared them by shooting.
And did he indicate what he thought happened after the shot?
I don't recall.
Did he observe behavior after he heard the shot in the individuals? What behavior did he tell you he observed?
I don't recall.
Did he see the subjects going in some direction in some way?
Yes.
What did he observe?
He observed them running south.
And did he say he thought that was as a result of the shot?
Yes.
Does that accurately reflect what you just told me?
Yes.
Did he tell you how far away from the residence the subjects were?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
He told me he observed them that they were approximately 100 to 150 yards.
And so he told you that he's on the, I'm sorry, does that accurately, and did he say whether he saw those subjects again?
Not after that.
Does that accurately reflect what you just told me?
Yes.
Now, did he tell you when he was out on the patio, did he show you which direction he saw these individuals?
I don't recall.
He tells you it's 100 to 150 yards away, is that right?
Correct.
And he told you he was on the east side patio.
Correct.
But did he tell you which direction they were?
He pointed at some point.
And which direction did he point?
He pointed straight forward to where we were standing from the door.
So
Or at
from the door directly forward, he said 100 to 150 yards.
Correct.
What did he tell you he did after he saw them 100 to 150 yards away and he never saw them again? What did he say he did next?
After he grabbed his rifle, he went outside and then he began to follow.
Did he say where he went?
No.
He just said he started following?
Yes.
Did he say whether he found them?
No.
Does that accurately reflect what you just told me?
Yes.
Did he tell you how many subjects he thought there were?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
Approximately 5 subjects.
Okay, and then did he make some speculation after that?
Yes.
What did he say?
He told me that he believed that there were a lot more subjects in the area.
Did he say what he was basing that on?
No. He said that it was speculation.
He specifically told you he was speculating.
Correct.
And does that accurately reflect what he told you?
Yes.
At that point, did you talk to Mr. Kelly about the incident? Did you give him some advice?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him that if he was in that kind of situation ever again, not to follow any subjects, to remain inside his residence, and to call 911 to keep himself and his wife safe.
Is that accurate on the screen?
Correct. Yes.
And what did Mr. Kelly say to you after you told him that?
Mr. Kelly told me that he knew I was giving him advice, but that he would do what he had to protect his property, and that if anything happened, he would, I don't recall the word.
Would it help you refresh your memory on the specific phrasing if I showed you a copy of your report?
Yes.
Let me know when you've refreshed your recollection. Go ahead and look.
Okay.
And what specifically did he tell you?
Mr. Kelly told me that he would take responsibility for his actions.
Before he said that, you indicated he said that he was insisting he had to protect his property, and did he say something else as well?
That he was conscious of the consequences.
And then you said, and he would take responsibility for his actions?
Correct.
And then, I'm sorry, before I put that up, did you talk to him again about what your advice was, even after he said that?
Yes, I reiterated what I had told him before.
Stay inside and call 911?
Correct.
Does that accurately reflect what you just told me?
Yes.
Thank you, I don't have anything else.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Can you tell me when you wrote this report?
It was back in January of 2023.
Did you write it on the same day that you responded to Mr. Kelly's property, or did you write it another day?
I don't recall.
Do you have your report in front of you still?
Yes.
Can you take a look at it and will that tell you what date you authored the report?
Yes.
While he's doing that, is your microphone on?
It is. Can you? No, I won't.
It's all right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Did you get a chance to take a look at your report?
Oh, no, I wasn't sure if I was.
Go ahead,
able to
take a
at
look at it and tell us if that refreshes your recollection about the date that you authored that report.
was on Tuesday, January 31st.
So it's the next day, is that correct?
Correct.
So you didn't offer this report the same day that you responded to the property, it was the following day?
Correct.
And when you did respond to the property on January 30th, you had some background information when you were traveling out there, correct?
Correct.
That came from dispatch, right?
Yes.
You were told by dispatch that the homeowner had reported shots fired at his house, correct?
Yes.
Possibly, anyway, right? And dispatch received that information from, do you know where dispatch received that information?
Yes.
Where did they receive that information?
From Border Patrol.
And do you know where Border Patrol received that information?
From the homeowner.
Okay, so there are 3 different levels of information being passed on until they get to you on the radio, correct?
Correct.
And when there are that many different levels of communication, sometimes things can get crossed. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Okay. At that point, when you're on your way out there, you hear from dispatch that Mr. Kelly has seen 5 men wearing camouflage and carrying backpacks. Is that correct?
Yes.
And dispatch also tells you that some of them are possibly carrying rifles, correct?
Correct.
So that's in your mind already when you're on your way to Mr. Kelly's property, correct?
Yes.
Dispatch also told you that the homeowner had taken his rifle and followed these subjects. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's in your mind also, right?
Correct.
Do you know where the information came from regarding Mr. Kelly supposedly following these people? Do you know specifically where? If you don't, you don't, but do you know where that came from?
No.
Okay, so you don't know if that came from the homeowner, or if that came from Border Patrol, or if that came directly from dispatch, correct?
Correct.
When you arrived at the property, did you notice a Border Patrol? Did you see anybody from Border Patrol there?
2 agents.
What were those 2 agents doing when you saw them?
I don't recall.
Do you recall if you ever saw agents doing a perimeter or walking around the house? Do you recall seeing that?
Yes.
You do remember they were doing that?
I recall them being by the property.
Do you know where specifically?
I remember seeing one by it was like a small third road, and then we met.
Okay. And you were carrying a weapon with you when you arrived at this property, is that right?
Correct.
Was it a rifle?
Yes.
And you were carrying that rifle because of the nature of the call, correct?
Yes.
You don't know what you're going to see or what you're going to run into when you answer a call like this, correct?
Correct.
And it could potentially be dangerous, right?
Yes.
Because you've heard about weapons, you've heard about shooting, right?
Yes.
So you're obviously going to be alert for those kinds of things, correct?
Yes.
You're going to be looking for people, obviously, right?
Yes.
You're going to be looking for weapons, right?
Correct.
And you might be looking for somebody who might be injured, correct?
Actively looking for such running.
Well, you respond to a call where you hear that shots have been fired, correct?
Correct.
And when shots are fired, somebody might be injured, correct?
Potentially.
So you might be looking for somebody who's injured also, right?
Potentially.
And when shots are fired, somebody also could be dead, correct?
Potentially.
So you should be looking for somebody who might be dead as well, right?
Potentially.
Potentially? You weren't looking for somebody who was injured or dead in this case?
Not at the time.
Why not?
Because the information that we received was that the subjects were actively running, and that Mr. Kelly had followed them.
And you also received information saying that there was a shot fired prior to the subjects being seen running. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that shot could have obviously caused some damage to somebody or something, correct?
Correct.
So it's possible that that shot might produce evidence, let's say, of somebody who is either injured or dead, correct?
Potentially.
So you really should have been looking for somebody who might have been the victim of that shot, correct? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you're saying you weren't looking for somebody who was either injured or dead at this point, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. We talked about you doing the search of this particular area to the east of the residence. Is that fair to say?
Could you repeat that question?
You and other deputies searched an area that's generally to the east of this residence. Is that correct?
We started on the east side of the residence.
Why did you start in that area?
Because that's where they pointed us, it was pointed to us that that's where the subjects were initially observed.
When you say they pointed you there, who was that?
Border Patrol were the ones that made contact first.
And Border Patrol provided you with information?
I
that-
don't recall, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you don't know if Border Patrol pointed you to search that area?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know if you had some encounters with Border Patrol before you searched this area, correct?
Correct.
Did you have encounters with anybody else before you searched that area?
Not me. Aside from the deputies.
So you talked to the other deputies who were there, correct?
Correct.
And who was there when you arrived?
I was Deputy Cabrera, batch 139, Deputy Monreal, batch 191, and Sergeant Garcia, batch
Okay.
130.
Were they all in the same place when you arrived?
We were in the same area.
What area was that when you first arrived?
It was on the side of the residence.
The east side?
I don't recall exactly if it was the east side or more towards the...
Okay. When you go, so then the four deputies, do you all go to search this particular area?
Correct.
And is it your understanding that perhaps one of the other deputies had received information saying this is generally where these 5 people might have been?
Yes.
Okay, but nobody told you specifically this is where the 5 people were, is that right?
I don't recall exactly.
Okay, but there's some sort of collective knowledge that you have to search this area because this is where these people may have been seen, correct?
Yes.
And then, so you cross over an area where there's a ladder going over the first fence, is that correct?
Correct.
And you pointed that out on the map as that being to the east of the residence, right?
Yes.
And it's by that little, I don't know what we want to call it, a little pump house that's by the house. Is that where the ladder is?
Yes.
There's another structure there, and then these 2 ladders go over the fence, correct?
Yes.
Did all of the deputies cross over using those 2 ladders?
Yes.
Okay. And was that something that you did sort of carefully to cross over these 2 ladders?
Yes.
Because you might fall, right?
Correct.
And you're carrying a rifle with you while you climb over these 2 ladders, right?
Yes.
Do you remember who goes over first or second or third?
No.
Do you remember? But all of the deputies do go over that ladder at some point, correct?
Correct.
So now, and I'll show you that drone footage in a minute if that will help, but you've gone over this ladder, and now there's 4 deputies who are over the first fence, is that right?
Correct.
You're in an area where it's a pasture, right? There's another fence if you go out further east, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you guys spread out and search that pasture, or did you do something else?
We kept walking and then hit that fence, and then we went underneath that second fence.
So you did not search that pasture that you were in at that point, is that correct?
At the time, we were actively searching.
And my question is, when do you fan out and spread yourselves out? Is it while you're in that pasture, or is it after you cross that second fence?
After we went underneath the second fence.
Why didn't you guys spread out and fan out and search while you were in that pasture?
I'm not sure.
You don't know why you waited until you crossed over that second fence before you spread out?
We had to cross underneath the second fence, and we helped each other, holding each other's rifles while the other crossed underneath.
But you don't know at this point if there's somebody in this pasture.
Nobody was visible at the time.
Nobody was visible, but there could be somebody hiding in there, correct?
Potentially.
You didn't search for that, right?
No.
Okay. When you get to the second fence, describe how you guys crossed the second fence.
We went underneath the wire fence, so we passed each other's our rifles, kind of helped each other lift up the wire fence, and then the deputy went underneath and then passed over the rifle.
So did all of you cross that second fence in approximately the same place
Yes.
as each other, I mean?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall the wire, the bottom wire of that fence being smooth wire?
I'm not sure I understand what.
As in not barbed wire?
We're going to take our evening recess at this time. We'll resume tomorrow at 8:30. Please remember the admonition of the court, do not do any personal, separate, independent investigation of anything. Don't go to any locations. Do not talk to anyone about anything about this case. Do not look at social media. Do not look at news media. Stay off the internet as much as possible. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30. I was talking to the lawyers a little bit about what kind of, who their witnesses are and schedules are, because I'm going to try and get, I know it's a holiday, I'm going to try and get you out a little early, but they do have some witnesses who are coming out of town, at least one, flying in from out of town, and there's some witnesses who need to go before that witness. So we're going to do our best, but hopefully we'll be able to get you out a little early tomorrow so you can have a long holiday weekend. I'll stay here with the lawyers. Ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning promptly at 8:30.
We rise to court.
Everyone have a seat. The jury is absent. I just want to get some read from the parties about the pace and progress of the trial. I have no idea who the scope of the witnesses or what you intend to prove and try to prove. So just give me some idea how we're doing. I mean, are we going faster, slower, or right on track from what we thought we were doing?
I think from the government's perspective, right on track. So, and can I just jump to tomorrow?
Yeah.
We've had 3 witnesses, 1 out-of-state coming in, 2 witnesses that need to go before. With court permission, we'll bring them on to lay foundation for some evidence that the 3rd witness relies upon for his analysis, or we can call them later. So just so we can speed up, so we can get the out-of-state witness done, and then hopefully we can break for the holiday for the jury. So
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
That's fine, Judge.
Right.
Judge, and that means that what we would do with the witness is just put them on for one specific issue, get them off, put another witness on, get that specific issue, and then take the 3rd witness, if that's okay with the court.
I actually understood it first time.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you. All right. We're recessed. We'll be back.
Well, I just wanted to